Welcome to episode 39 of the Charged Up Show with Tyler Ertel from Holistic Hockey. Holistic Hockey offers a high-end on-ice skill development. They offer the whole package with skating, stick handling, and shooting. If you're looking to get an edge this summer, call or text Tyler Ertel at 519-501-2971 or send Holistic Hockey an email. Also make sure to check out their Instagram at Holistic Hockey. Thanks and enjoy the podcast.
Please welcome the founder of Holistic Hockey, my personal hockey trainer, Tyler Ertel.
Thank you.
So, Ertz, we'll get into it. Obviously, crazy summer. Before we get into the playing career, we'll talk a little bit holistic, and we'll talk about it at the end too. But how has this COVID affected Holistic Hockey? How have you dealt with it? How busy are you right now? Because it's crazy.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody today about it, and I would say about 6-7 weeks in the pandemic, I was really hurting. I missed being around the guys. I missed being around the rink. It was a struggle. It was really a struggle, and I can only imagine how it was for the kids. My glory days are well in the past. For young guys like yourselves and even the minor hockey guys and. I just, the kids that missed out on the OHL Cup and, making OMHA runs, Alliance runs, I felt so bad for them. And now being back, I really, I was saying this to somebody downstairs today at the rink. I'd never realized how much mental health and hockey play with one another. Just texts I'm getting from parents. Some guys your age, 20. I got text from a dad of a 20-year-old, and he's like, "Hey, you just made my boys weak. He just started 3 weeks ago with me, and he gets a sense of normalcy." And anytime I get some of my young guys out too, these parents sending me thank you. You don't know how happy I am to see my kids smiling again. And I think sometimes I got a little too focused on, the skill development and, getting the kid who was single A wanting to make double A or double A wanting to make triple A. And it's been a big reminder for me that, this is way more important than the levels of hockey they want to get to. And that's been the biggest thing I've really taken away from these past 3-4 months. And it's been very humbling, and you just keep learning, right? I'm 49 years old, and I just learned it, honestly, the last 3 months. I heard about it. I knew it kind of made kids happy, but I didn't really truly get it until this pandemic came, and it was a big, big eye-opener for me, and it's one of the positives I'm going to take out of it for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, yeah, I'll hop in, obviously, because I'm with you, and I experienced that as soon as the ice opened, really. As soon as you're on the ice, you forget about COVID, right? And it's awesome being able to hang out with all the boys on the ice, which you can't necessarily do off the ice. I know, I'm still social distancing from a lot of them. So once you're on the ice, and all that goes away. And you're right, it is really fun, and you appreciate a lot more now.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been great. This week we're hallway dressing rooms kind of stuff, and hearing the guys just joke around. I'm down the hall, away from them, but I can still hear and hearing a few of the chirps and a couple of the laughters coming out of each dressing room. It's awesome. You're just happy to have these guys happy again, and you can just see what it does for them overall as people. And it's been great just to continue to learn and see the importance of it. So yeah, it's been absolutely awesome these last 3 weeks. I've loved it.
No, I'm sure it's probably a good issue to have, but was it hard to manage? I'm sure so many athletes want to get on the ice. Was it all at once? Everyone wanted to get on at a point.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing in the last 3-4 weeks is saying no to people.
Yeah.
Just because of numbers. We started with 4. I was only allowed 4 kids on the ice and myself. No goalies, 4 players, a shooter, tutor, and a lineup of 30 people. And it was tough. And some really good friends of mine that I couldn't do anything about it. Right. And it was very, very difficult. Now things are starting to loosen up here these last, few weeks and getting more and more people involved, but I'm still, I would say, turning 70% of my clientele away.
Wow.
So it's tough, it's very, very tough, but everybody's been incredibly understanding, and that part's been awesome. And they know that I'm doing my very best to get as many people as I can out there, and as quick as I can. But you're just limited with space and time, and there's other people renting, there's other companies, and you got to be respectful of them too, because you want all of them to be able to earn a keep for their families. And so it's definitely a delicate balance, but I think everybody's doing a great job to the cities are doing a good job, the private rinks are doing a good job, the companies are doing a good job, and everybody's doing their best to just make sure that we follow safety first, and then obviously the hockey second. And I think right now across the board, that's what I love about Waterloo Region. It's a great community where people are taking care of each other, and it's neat to see.
From a business standpoint as well, do you think the whole situation has helped holistic hockey grow and gain new skaters as well?
Yeah, I don't know. It's too early to tell. I know for my older guys, it's been awesome. I've got to be introduced to some guys that I haven't trained before in the past, because they just have no ice in their area. And then, it's been very humbling. They're like, wow, I really like this skate. Can I come back out? And anytime I get a kid that does that, that's always great. So I got a couple new OHL guys that are going to start next week. So that's great too. And so that part of it's been awesome. But I think it's hurt my minor hockey kids. And there's only so much I can do. I got to get these guys ready, because you don't know, they could be in camp in 3 weeks, and they could be in camp in 3 months. So you have to err on the side of caution and try to get them ready for the 3 weeks window, so they are prepared. And if not, then we'll, move into that second phase of how we're going to train. And then, hopefully August, I can get more of my minor hockey kids out and taking care of them. So, but yeah, it's been a definite delicate balance. So, trying to get everybody pleased and happy, and you're trying to just make the pecking order work properly. And so far, I think it's gone well. And like I said, the parents have been unbelievable how understanding everybody's been. So that part of it's been awesome.
So we'll touch back on all this hockey later, but let's get right into now your story, obviously. And it all started playing minor hockey, and assuming you grew up in Kitchener. And what was your minor hockey experience like?
Yeah, it was great. It was, played Kitchener minor hockey from about birth years of 1967 to about 1974. Kitchener was a powerhouse, and it was awesome. I remember watching guys like Kevin Meem and Matt Rupti and Steve Seftel, and these guys, they were our idols, and everybody wanted to play on the green shirts. And it was just, Kitchener minor hockey was so great back then, and I absolutely loved it. Watching those guys and playing up. And then, we had 9 guys off of our team go OHL draft. And it was just it was amazing. Right. So, I got to do that. And then at 15, I went and played junior B as a 15-year-old. And then I got drafted as an underager to the Rangers, played 4.5 years in the OHL, got drafted by the Vancouver Canucks, then went over to Tampa Bay, and then kind of realized where things were going and decided I had to go get my schooling. And I went out to UPEI after that and played hockey out there. I got my schooling out there. And then 1 year at Teachers College, and now I'm just finished year 21 of teaching. So
wow, that's great.
I'm getting old.
Jesus, relax, man. We got to get through these. You can't just drill it all for us. So jump into the OHL, and we'll kind of skip through the junior B, but jump right into the OHL and coming as an underage player playing in your hometown. How amazing was that? Was there a lot of pressure involved too? Because there is a lot of kids who don't like playing in their hometown.
Yeah, it was a double-edged sword for me. I always wanted to be a Kitchener Ranger, and for obvious reason, the organization was great. But my dad was the president there, so I got some pretty heavy flack. Especially we were an 8th place team, so we weren't that good. I got some flack that the only reason I was there was because of my dad. So that was the reason. It was Joe McDonnell who was my coach. And we mutually came to an agreement that, it'd probably be best for me. I wanted to go prove myself. For me, I've always kind of been like, if you tell me I can't do something, then I'll go show you that I can. Yeah. And sometimes that's worked good for me, and sometimes it hasn't. So after my underage year, the Rangers were kind enough, and Joe McDonnell mainly, to trade me to North Bay. And that's how that all came about. So there was no animosity or anything that I left, and I'm still great friends with Joe McDonnell to this day. I love the man. He actually brought me back for overage, so that was our relationship there. But yeah, my underage, it was hard. It was hard having, and that's why, I always have a soft spot for a guy like Cooper Walker, because, with his dad being an owner,
Yeah.
Cooper's a legitimate player, and Scott Walker's obviously a great human being. And I think things are a little different now than back then, but we never had online stuff either, right? So a lot of our stuff was verbal. And so, with those kind of things, it's hard. And sometimes that's where I always have a soft spot for Coop, because, I know there's always somebody out there who's going to say it or whatever. And Coop Walker is a legit OHL hockey player, and I think will go pro. But there's going to be some clown out there that's going to, try to be jealous of him or whatever. And I know I probably had the same. I'm not as good as Cooper Walker was, but it was just something that was tough. But you know what? After that year, I absolutely loved it, and I got to go prove myself, which is kind of in my makeup, and it worked out. I thought really well after that.
Was it hard to go to North Bay from Kitchener? Did you have that like heartbreaking feeling, or like leaving somewhere you really enjoyed?
No, it was scared, because I was just scared of Bert Templeton. I was petrified of him. We all were. So, like, Bert's one of the, he's the last of the old school guys, right? Like, we would, get off the bus at 3 a.m. and he'd skate us. It was all the horror stories you've heard about. That's what we lived through. But in the same breath, I love Bert Templeton. He's the guy that taught me the most about hockey. I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'10". And, he's the guy that taught me how to play. And back then it was clutch and grab, and everybody was 6'2", 6'3", and he taught me how to play as a little guy and how to succeed. And he's the guy I give all the credit to for that. As long as you did things Bert's way, you were okay. And when you strayed away from that, you generally paid a price. And but you know what? It was great. I loved going up there. I was 17. 4 hours away from home, and we didn't have Skype or phones or anything, so I could only call my parents after 11, because that's when it was cheap. So it was a lot different back then. So it was you learned how to fend for yourself, and but I loved it. I'm still in a group chat with the guys from North Bay, and that's 32 years later. They're great guys. I love them. They supported me in a golf tournament that we do for a buddy of ours that played up there, passed away to brain cancer, and they all come down almost every year. And that's 30 years later. So yeah, some of those guys are still my best friends today. My time in North Bay was awesome. I absolutely love North Bay. It's a great city to play, especially when you're winning. It's because that's the only thing up there, right? So yeah. It's awesome. I really enjoyed it.
That's great, and it's always interesting to see like you said with that coach. Like, there's always going to be that one kind of hesitating moment, but then it could really pay off at the end, which obviously sounds like it did for you, and kind of pushes you to be a better athlete in the end as well.
Yeah, he's the reason I got drafted in the NHL. 100% him and Brad Smith, Motor City Smitty, who's a Toronto Maple Leaf icon. Those two guys are my two biggest influences. And unfortunately, Bert has passed away, but Motor City is still alive, and I talk to him as much as I can. We've got another group chat that he's in, and he's a great man. He's a scout for the Colorado Avalanche right now, and I love the man. He's amazing. Like, he's just simply amazing, and he taught me so much, and just kind of let me be me, and those are probably my two biggest influences in the OHL that to this day I'm grateful for.
That's great. Yeah.
You can't just breeze over this 3 a.m. bag skates. Like, give us some stories here.
Yeah, no, we were in Cornwall. We lost 12-2. And there was this guy named Darcy Cahill who walks, and those guys remember this guy. And he was a skilled guy. He goes on the 12th goal between his legs and scores. And apparently back then we were supposed to fight him. Nobody fought him. So it was a quiet ride. We got no food. So generally you got pizza, and things were a lot different back then with the food and all that too. We got pizza and a pop on the ride home. That was all taken away. And then Cornwall to North Bay, it was like, man, it was January or something. And we got back, and we had to put all of our equipment on that was underneath the bus, wet, cold. And we went out, and he put 4 nets on the ice, and we had to. So for the first 25 minutes, we skated, couldn't stop for 25 minutes, just skated. Wow. So no, your legs couldn't stop. Now he didn't make you go 100%, but it was about 50%. And then for another 50 minutes, we had to push each end the net. You had to push it to the other end, and 4. So there was 4 lines. So you had two times to rest. And he did that for, I think it was about 45 minutes that we did it. And we got off the ice at 4:30, and then he had us back in the room at 8 a.m. And it was terrible. It was awful. So, but those are the, it was the way it was back then. But you know what? We majority of us, not all of us, majority of us loved him. And we all played hard for him, right? So, but we didn't know any better, right? So, but you know what? In fairness to Bert, that's what he knew, and that's how times were back then. I know Bert adapted as things moved on. I don't know how he would do in today's game, but knowing Bert, I think he could adapt to it. But that kind of stuff is all gone now, and rightfully so. That league is excellent now for taking care of their players, and I know there's something out there right now that everybody's talking about, and that's definitely an unfortunate situation. But I will say, from when I played to where it is now, and with guys like Scotty Walker, Darian Hatcher in Sarnia, he's a phenomenal human being. There's just a lot of good human beings in that league now, and they do things right now. And David Branch is really good. He's really evolved with it and come with the times. And even a guy like Joe Birch now in Kitchener, these guys are great. They're good human beings, and it is a great league to play in. And you're always going to have your incidents, and I'm not going to make any judgment on that one that's out there right now. But they are more rare than they are common, from my understanding of what I know and what I remember. And I will say this, we did go through some tough stuff as rookies. It was very difficult. Some of the stuff we went through back then with hazing and stuff. But the one thing I will say is the next day, that same guy that hazed me as a 16-year-old, if a 19-year-old tried to touch me on the ice, he was in there protecting my back. And that's one thing I think people are missing. And I'm not saying what's happening right now is right, or if any of that story is true, that's obviously not right. But these same people that may have made this mistake, generally they're really, really good people. And sometimes we're forgetting that these teenagers do make mistakes, and we need to just teach and educate instead of slam them, and just help everybody through them. And that includes the victim or victims. So, excuse me, that part of it, I think we just forget is what some of these guys did on the hazing side of it. I know it's difficult to hear, but those are the same guys that would have your back the next day and have your back the following day. And they were really, really good human beings. And sometimes not everything comes out in context. And it's the biggest thing I've learned now in 49 years is there's two sides to every story. And as long as you can kind of listen to both truths and come to your own truth, it's pretty neat to see.
And that's also humbling, and like a good lesson for everyone to know too, just because there's just like you said, there's always both sides think they're right.
Yeah.
Moving on, you went to Windsor after that and had a pretty amazing season after that. It was impressive. 94 points.
Yeah, no, that was a great year. I had a little bit of consideration for the World Juniors that year. They went ahead and picked a guy by the name of Dale Craigwell, who was a great hockey player. He came from that Oshawa system. He was awesome. But I know Motor City tried his hardest to get me on that World Junior team, but no go. And the team they picked was the right team. I don't think I deserved to be there anyways. Dale was a great pick. So yeah, that was a great year though. I loved it. I think I would have had 100 points, but I got a little bit of trouble with suspension that I did something wrong on the ice, and I think it was a 4 or 6 game suspension that probably cost me my 100-point season. But that's why the penalty minutes behind it. I had a little bit of a temper that went with it, but not a fighter. I was more of that ratty kind of Marchand kind of guy, not close to Marchand's skill, but just that kind of cut cloth. I felt like I was a guy that you love to have on your team, and I totally understood why you hated it playing against me and why you wanted to rip my head off, and it was all deserved. But you know what? As a little guy, I knew I wouldn't physically beat you, so I thought if I could mentally beat you and get under your skin and get us on a power play and maybe get us an extra point or an extra goal or whatever, or even a momentum of 2 minutes, I knew that was a good thing. And I'm proud to say I felt like I was a really good teammate, and to these days, I still have guys that talk about that, and I know I have guys that text me and say you were quite a jerk to play against, but they're always like, I wish you would have been on my team too, right? So I look at a guy like Justin Morris, and he's the last guy. It'll never be broken. He's the last guy to get 100 points and 200 penalty minutes in the same year. And, we talked to this day. I couldn't stand him. He couldn't stand me. But we were both competitors, and I respect that guy to the end of the earth. There was nobody more. The guy could compete, and he was tough, and he had skill. Drafted to the Washington Capitals. Couldn't stand playing against them. But now, I know I was just talking to him on Facebook. He's got a place out in Newfoundland, and he's just a great guy. And these are so many guys like that I played against, and he's one of hundreds that I played against that. I know they didn't like me, and I probably didn't like them, but once it's over, it's all about respect. And they were doing their job and what they could for their team, and that's what I did for my team. And sometimes it was probably not liked by a lot of other guys, but I wasn't worrying about other guys. I was trying to help my team win, and afterwards, hopefully you respect me for it. And if you didn't, then that's not out of my control. So that was kind of where we went.
Absolutely. So you being a coach, like, would you see a difference now the game is played back then, like when you play versus today, like, or is it similar, like compared to like the aggressiveness or like even skill wise, different drills?
Yeah, no, it's totally different now. And it's better. It's better. A lot of guys my age, and maybe because I'm not, I wasn't considered a tough guy, are like, it's not as tough as it was, blah, blah, blah. And I get the argument. I really do. But the game is so much better now. It really is. And I know some guys struggle with it, and I get that. Everybody's allowed to have their opinion. But yeah, the way you teach now, the way defensemen are in plays and the mobility they have. And, some games defensemen have the most shots on net. Seeing little guys in front of the net on a power play. That's like unheard of in our day, right? It was, you were 6'4" and the defenseman was 6'5", and you literally just cross-check the crap out of each other, and that's all you did. You can't touch anybody now, right? So, but the game's gotten, it's way faster, way bigger, or sorry, not bigger, way quicker, and the skill set it's mind-blowing, right? It's really, really impressive to watch. And even when I'm on the ice with Mules and all that group, there's moments, I shouldn't say this because I'm going to pay for it, but I look at these guys and I'm like, man, you guys are good hockey players. Like, you guys are really, really good hockey players. So it's great to watch, and their work ethic, and they're all respectful. They pick up pucks afterwards. They take stuff off the ice for me. We just didn't really have that relationship with our coaches. They didn't want to talk to us, and we didn't really want to talk to them. And I like to joke around with the guys on the ice, but I also like to push them at the same time, and I bark when I need to, and we laugh when we need to. But the personal relationships are way better now too. So it's gotten a lot better in so many aspects. I know, a lot of people my age would like to see a little more physicality. I don't. And I was, I've always enjoyed the skill part of the game. But I do understand guys that were, buddies of mine that were fighters or muckers. I get how they struggle with that, and it's a valid point. But I really enjoy where it is right now. And I think it just keeps getting better and better. And just even watching these exhibition games start, it blows my mind watching these guys. I'm just like, you're so fast and so good, right? So it's really impressive to watch. And the game has gotten better in so many ways.
I like, we're going off topic, but that's totally fine. I like to even talk about the relationships now. And I've never really played in a game where you don't want to talk to your coach and you don't. But I love having that relationship with your coach, and I think it brings out, for me at least, in the generation now, I think most of the guys are similar, where me and my coach are talking about our weeks, and my coach is telling me what he did with his, like, my coach has a young daughter, and he would tell me what they would do, and you build that connection, and you want to work way harder for them versus when you hate it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mills. I think you're 100% right, and that's why, so many things are moving in a good direction in this game right now, and it's not perfect, and it never will be, and I think that's what makes it great. But it's great, the relationships, and generally the teams that win are guys like what you're talking about, Mules. Those guys that are, asking their players, how are you today? Not making fun of them if they're having a girlfriend issue, or not making fun of them if they're having a fight with a buddy, or a fight with parents, or I know sometimes we struggle with it, but and we joke about it, but it could be something as small as their phone breaking. That's huge in today's generation, right? And it puts them in a bad mood and that kind of stuff. And you just got to be aware of it and try to be sympathetic to everybody. Everybody has their own story, and that's the biggest thing I try to take out of it now is you just got to sit here and you got to listen and as much as X's and O's are a part of it, and training is a part of it, it's your ears that are even a bigger part of it now, and trying to be just listening to these guys, right? So yeah, it's great. I like it way better than what we had. I mean, I would never have a conversation with Bert Templeton. That's just not how it was back then, and that's no slam against him. It's just how it was back then. And but now I see how you guys are with your coaches, and I think it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, hockey and sporting in general, I think nowadays it's definitely a good outlet for young athletes, to talk with their teammates, any issues. Like it's definitely mentally, like it puts them in a good mindset and probably helps their game even more just because they build that relationship like 100 times better. So
I agree 100% with that. I think you're bang on with it for sure.
Now let's talk a little bit about your you finished your pro or junior career in Kitchener, and then you took a shot at pro, bouncing between a few different teams. But how was that experience as well? The pro.
Yeah, pro was great. I loved it. I remember I went to my first pro camp, and Peter Nedved was drafted first round that year. So it was different back then. You were kind of ranked by your number. So like Nedved had like number 5 in camp or something, and Trevor Linden had number 2. And I went there and I had number 74. So I was like, oh man, this isn't looking good for me here. So I knew my chances weren't so good. And so yeah, I went down and toiled a bit in the minors. And it was great. I mean, obviously a lot of friends down there and stuff, but I kind of knew, I could kind of see back then, I saw the writing on the wall. Everything was, 6'3", 6'4", going into Vancouver's camp. I'm trying to go around Dana Merzen, who's got a wingspan of like 12 feet, and just grabbing me and throwing me around. And so I knew I could maybe go over to Europe, and I had an offer to go to Britain and that kind of stuff, but I just knew it wasn't going to be for me something that I wanted. So I was close to a point a game still, in pro, which I'm pretty proud of, but I just knew that it wasn't going to end up where I obviously hoped it was going to, and so that I tell this story to my students all the time. I won't mention the guy's name, but I was fortunate enough every time I played, I always had a tough guy on my line to protect me. So I went over to his place to play cards one night, and he didn't talk for like 15 minutes. We were just playing cards, and I was like, man, I'm just going to head out here. I can tell you're having a bad night. And he looked at me, and this guy had always had black eyes and missing a tooth and stuff. And he's like, no, Ertz, don't go. I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, I need to borrow $20 from you. I'm like, $20. So we weren't rich or like millionaires, but we were making decent money, getting our apartment paid for. We had a pretty good deal where we were playing. And he's like, yeah, I just can't afford diapers for my baby right now. And that was it. When I went home that night, I called my mom and I said, this is it. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to school. And that was, I call it my shovel moment. Wow. Kind of right in the face. And I was 21 at the time. That guy was 34. He had 2 kids and a baby on the way. And this guy was, he had, like, back then it was crazy. Like, he would have 400, 500 penalty minutes. And he had tears in his eyes because he couldn't afford diapers for his baby. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, man, if I don't get out of here, this could be me, on the other side of that table in 10, 11 years. And I just thought, I came from a family that really preached education, and I thought this is my moment. I can do this for another 5-6 years and go home and tell everybody, yeah, I'm still playing pro hockey and yada. But at the end of it, nobody really cares. And so I thought I better go get my education. And my mom cried on the phone. She was all happy. And that started my university career after that.
Wow.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times on the podcast, but we've talked to a lot of different people with a lot of different stories, and we always like to think like things happen for a reason, and it kind of life happens for you, not to you. Yeah. And that sounds like a perfect example of that little quote, because exactly. Who knows what would happen if you stayed playing pro or.
Yeah. I don't, I'm not sure a lot of guys can admit this. I don't think I was mature enough to be able to play pro. I don't think I was mature enough to handle the money. I don't think I was mature enough to handle it, a lot of this stuff back then. Everybody matures at a different rate. And I don't think that's a slam against myself. I just think that's honest. Yeah. And, I just don't think, and thankfully I didn't make it, because I think maybe things could have ended up, worse for me, maybe with an addiction, with no education, both, I don't know. It could have gotten really bad. I just don't think I was mature enough back then. So, I went back and I got my schooling, and, I think things now are definitely a lot more stable for me and more happy, but, everybody's different. And that's something I'm trying to instill my boys now, try to, increase their maturity level, which they all impress me with. So yeah, it's definitely, you just keep building and learning and trying to grow from it, right? So yeah, I think that's a more than accurate and fair statement. I think maybe somebody up above was looking out for me and saying, you know what, you're not ready for this, so you're not going to get it. And in the end, I think it was probably the best thing that could happen to me.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's wise and respectful. Like education is key, especially nowadays. Like even the younger guys, that if they're the same position, and you hear all the horror stories, like especially like NFL, like their career's done, right, and they have nothing to fall back on. So
Yeah,
education is huge, I feel nowadays.
yeah, no, I agree 100% with you.
And then, so you got to go play your year at UPEI, which is right?
I played, so I went up there. I had to sit out my first year because I played pro. So I played up east in a place called Surrey PEI.
Okay.
We actually won the Eastern Canadians up there. It was a great little fishing community. It was awesome. And then I played 3 years after that. So I was in PEI for actually 4 years, but I played for 3. And I got my Bachelor of Arts there, and then off to Western, got my BEd, my education degree.
So how did this all lead to your current holistic hockey? Obviously becoming a teacher, obviously you like working with kids and motivating high school, right? So
yeah, no, I got a call. I don't know, man. Like, so I'd always afterwards, like I'd always dabbled. And even when I was a kid, like your age, Mills, and, I even younger, I was working here in Kitchener hockey schools and stuff like that. And then I got a call like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago they were short an instructor, and I ran into this guy 2 weeks ago. He's like, hey, it's like, we need a guy to fill in. So I went and I filled in, and they gave me this duotang to follow. And I was like, all right, okay, whatever. So I followed it, and I did my week's work. And, I was kind of like, man, I didn't really like that, right? So I was just kind of, that weekend, I was like, I think I could do this. Like, and I think I could do it, a little better than this duotang. And so, yeah, then it just kind of started from there and snowballed from there. And it's been, been absolutely amazing ever since. And, thoroughly enjoyed being around the kids. And, I'm looking at, some of these guys that are out there now, like, Nolan Dan, Chandler Romeo. I've been with those guys since they were 7 years old. So it's been amazing, with their parents. We've been obviously away to spring hockey tournaments and winter hockey tournaments together, and I've trained their kids in the summers, and they're just phenomenal families, right? So have put their trust in me to help work their childs out, on the ice. And it's been awesome, right? It's been awesome. The friendships and all of it. It's been rewarding. It is hard work though. That's the one thing, I give credit to all the hockey schools that are out there. A lot of people think, you show up for the hour, you do it. You can, but you'll be done quick. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, and a lot of marketing and a lot of relationship stuff that you got to do. So it's not like, I say, everybody's, firefighters, they only work 7 days a month. I'm like, man, they work hard, right? Same with cops. Everybody works hard. And I'm sure people even look at it and like, oh, wow, a podcast must be easy. And you guys know how hard you work and all the work that you put behind it, right? But optically, it's like, oh, yeah, this is, but, there's no way I would ever say that, because I, again, just learned with age that, that every story or every job has a story behind it that involves hard work if you're going to be successful. And obviously you guys are doing great. You can see some of the guys and girls you're getting on here, and that's, awesome. And that doesn't come from you guys sitting around, right? It's, you're making phone calls, you're making emails and doing that stuff, right? So yeah, it's been great. It's been rewarding, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I actually, as I get older, I'm enjoying it more, which I thought would be the opposite. I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm ready to tap out. But this summer with like Mules' group, like they're just, it's awesome. Like that's for me, it's like, this doesn't even work. This is just fun, and it's a blast, right? So it's getting more enjoyable as I get older too.
You can see more reward as you go through it, right? The older you get, you see more reward.
Yeah. Now I've got some guys that, are 24, 25, and they just finished university, and they're like, hey, can I come back and work for you? And I was training them like 7-10 years ago. Right. So that part's neat. And, they're getting married now, and they're sending me pics of their kids and stuff. And so, it's really full circle, and something that, I love to watch and keep the relationships up with them, and, have a good laugh here and there, but also happy to see, where they're moving to and how their life is moving in a positive way, right? So it's really cool. Hockey players I think they're a special breed. They're 99% are really good human beings, and they're loyal, and they don't forget where you come from, and a lot of them come back and they want to help out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that group is pretty awesome that you have going. Both junior ice times are awesome. Everyone got a really good group going. And then our last question that we're going to go through is personally, how has it been having your kids go through it? Obviously, 2 older ones. Jake was able to play at Junior A, Tier 2, Junior B. I played against him last year. Justin's committed to Cornell now. Jordy's still coming up. But how amazing has it been to watch him go through it? But also, how have you used your experience? Obviously, Justin had to make the decision between OHL and NCAA, and I'm sure you were a big part of helping them with that decision. So what is it like seeing them, and what have you been able to teach them?
My boys are my life. I love them. It's great to watch. Sometimes I feel bad for them because they get some undue pressure too of, your dad's, he's got a hockey school, and, they get chirped one way or the other. And, but you know what, overall they handle it really well. They are way better than I ever was as a kid, all 3 of them. Watching them grow, I love where Jacob is right now. He's kind of, he's focusing in on his schooling, and he wants to go have a great year in Paris. And he's just being true to himself, and I'm so proud of him for that, and that's awesome. Justin, coming to the Cornell decision, basically I just laid both sides of the story out there, and I do have to say this, North Bay has been amazing. Even to this minute, North Bay has been amazing to Justin and to our family. So I will never, ever say a bad word. The offer they made to Justin was beyond fair, and very, very humbling for what they offered to Justin. But Cornell right now, I just think gives Justin a bigger runway, and Justin sees that. So, the tough part that a lot of people don't, really talk about is after you get drafted, you only have 2 years to sign in the OHL. If you get drafted in NCAA, you can have up to 4 to 5 years to sign. So, it just opens up your window just a bit more. And I think that's a good thing for Justin right now. And Jordy coming up, he can just flat out fly. Right now his skating is, I love where it's going. And, but he's going to do the same thing. He's going to, he's going to make his choice. And for all 3 of my boys, I try my best to just lay out both sides of a choice, and then it's up to them to make it. Like I said, my glory days are way, way beyond me. And this isn't about me. This is all about them. And most importantly, this is about them being happy. They got a 1% chance of making the NHL, but hopefully 100% chance of being a good human being in their community. And that's most important thing to me. And I think right now I couldn't be more proud to be their father. And I just absolutely love all 3 of them.
That's great. Yeah,
I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. But that was an amazing. I think it's really cool to say that, like, every time we do a podcast, it feels like this is the next big one, So we appreciate you coming on and
thanks,
sharing all these amazing stories with us. It's really cool to get the view, because people know holistic hockey, but they might not know Tyler Ertel, right? So
yeah. A lot of people forget I'm a dad. They just think I'm just a hockey trainer, right? And there's, I'm a dad too, right? So I have dad emotions, and I have all those things too, right? So it's I try to be as normal as I can with my kids around the ice, and I just honestly try to leave them alone. But it's sometimes because I'm a teacher, then I own a hockey school, and people are like, oh yeah, but they forget I'm also a dad, right? So and that of the 3 jobs is definitely the most difficult and the most rewarding all at the same time, right? So it's pretty neat. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's neat to just be able to kind of let people inside that little circle, right? So it's cool. I appreciate you guys letting me do that.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.